This chapter restores the original energetic blueprint and shows what becomes possible when feminine and masculine energy are no longer at war, but finally remember how to merge. Chapter 5, Soul Partners. I once brought up the concept of the divine feminine to a millennial friend, and she blinked at me, confused. "What's that?" she asked. Her question stopped me in my tracks. It wasn't just that she didn't resonate with it. She'd never even heard the term. It hit me then, for many young people, especially in westernized, postmodern culture, there is no working framework for what it truly means to be female, let alone what it means to embody the highest aspect of that energy. Since that moment, the confusion has deepened. The sacred energies of both the elevated feminine and the elevated masculine have been buried beneath layer after layer of distortion. Words like woman, man, masculine, and feminine have become loaded with politically charged subtext. Identity politics pushed us further into a war of definitions, one that fractures us from our spiritual archetypes. While individual journeys around gender are valid and deeply personal, there's also no denying the broader agenda at play. Much of this confusion is not accidental. It has been seeded and cultivated by psychological and social engineering programs, like those developed by Tavistock and other think tanks. Their goal? To disrupt the family unit, disorient the masses, and sever our connection from source energies. This isn't conspiracy, it is strategy. It's working. You'll find deeper exploration of these mechanisms later in the book, but suffice to say, the blurring of gender archetypes is not simply an evolution, it's a calculated dismantling. This doesn't mean we should dismiss the lived experiences of those navigating gender identity. Quite the opposite. Many people feel disconnected from their physical form because they are carrying the essence of another lifetime, a soul imprint that transcends biological sex. If you were female in a recent past life and now find yourself in a male body, you may be carrying feminine energy that doesn't match the societal mold. That dissonance isn't a flaw, it's a calling to explore. In truth, we are all hybrids, multidimensional mixtures of masculine and feminine, past and present, soul and body. The indigenous world has understood this. In many ancient cultures, those who carried a blend of genders were revered, not erased. They were seen as bridges, holding the wisdom of both polarities, embodying integration. The divine feminine. What is the divine feminine, really? It's not a trend, not a self-help buzzword, and definitely not a commercialized archetype wrapped in moonwater and Snapchat filters. The divine feminine is the purest expression of feminine energy in its most exalted form, timeless, ancient, and encoded into the very fabric of life itself. She is the force of creation. She is fertility. Yes, but not just biological. She births ideas, art, healing, connection, intuition, and compassion. She is the pulse of the cosmos that whispers, "You are safe, you are loved, you are more than what you produce." She is nonlinear, right-brain dominant, emotionally intelligent, and soul deep. She is present in all of us. Divine feminine energy isn't exclusive to women, just as divine masculine energy isn't exclusive to men. As I said, we're hybrid beings. When a man embraces his feminine energy, his ability to feel, to receive, to nurture, to intuit, he becomes more whole, not less masculine. In fact, the most powerful beings on this planet are those who've learned to harmonize both polarities within themselves. That's the real evolution, not gender confusion, but sacred integration. Now let's be clear. The highest form of feminine is not weakness. She is not submissive by default. She is not a pushover. She is fierce in her softness, boundaried in her compassion, unshakable in her capacity to love without condition. She is what the modern world fears most, a woman or a man who knows how to love fully and say no, who can hold space without self-abandoning, who nurtures without losing herself. In her distorted, toxic form, the feminine becomes needy, manipulative, overly emotional, martyr-like, codependent. This isn't divine. It's the wounded ego of powerlessness. It's the version of femininity the system often prefers because it's easier to control. To reclaim the divine feminine is to dismantle centuries of programming. It's to stand in a place of both open-hearted love and unshakable self-determination. She sees through illusion. She knows when something is off. She feels it in her bones. When she rises, when we rise with her, everything changes. The divine masculine. Just as the divine feminine embodies the sacred power of love, intuition, and life-giving energy, the divine masculine represents its perfectly balanced counterpart, the energy of strength, clarity, direction, and unwavering presence. When fully activated, this, the highest form of masculine, does not dominate, it grounds. It does not conquer, it protects. It is the steady mountain to the river's flow. The divine masculine at its highest frequency is not afraid to act, but it does so from a place of conscious intent, not reactive impulse. It is the part of us that builds structures, maintains order, offers stability, and initiates right action. It's logical, focused, and strategic. More than anything, the divine masculine is safe. He makes others feel protected, not because he overpowers, but because he holds space with honor. This is where many get confused. Our culture has long mistaken brute force and domination for masculine strength. True masculinity is never rooted in fear, control, or competition. Those are distortions, wounded expressions of a masculinity that has lost its sacred center. When masculine energy turns toxic, it becomes cold, power-hungry, dismissive, or destructive. It seeks control because it has lost connection. Yet the healed masculine, he listens deeply. He does not need to prove. He knows when to step forward and when to hold back. He is the sword and the silence. He leads, but never to self-aggrandize. He leads because he must, because others are safer when he does. He disciplines not to punish, but to create integrity. We are now living through a pivotal rebalancing, a collective initiation. The divine feminine is reawakening, yes. However, she is not meant to rise alone. She is calling for her masculine counterpart, not to suppress her, but to stand beside her. Exploitative hierarchies of the old patriarchal paradigm into something more heart-centered. The divine masculine has a crucial role to play. His steadiness is needed. His focus, his sense of justice, his integrity, his protection of the innocent, all are essential in this unfolding. We are not moving toward a feminine dominant world. We are moving toward balance, toward the sacred reunion of both forces. The feminine shows us how to feel. The masculine shows us how to act from those feelings without losing our center. That's the future worth building, one where love and logic, intuition and action walk hand in hand. Manifesting partners. Can you manifest your divine partner? Absolutely. But not by parroting somebody else's list or envisioning a Hollywood script. The true manifestation of a soul partner is less about conjuring a perfect match and more about calling in the being who reflects, activates, and expands the truest version of you. Yes, part of that process involves clarity. When you get clear about what you want, crystal clear, you begin to send coherent signals into the quantum field, into the universe. Still, here's the catch. The clarity must come not from ego or wounding, but from soul-level discernment. This is where it gets real. You can't skip the self-work and expect a divine partner to show up fully formed, ready to fix your life. That's not how it works. Your partner will meet you at the frequency you're currently emitting. When you decide to manifest love, the first step is always the same. Clean your own frequency first. Years ago, I thought I had done that. I entered a relationship with someone who, on paper, matched many of the things I believed I needed: depth, passion, intelligence, spiritual alignment. What I hadn't accounted for was how unresolved trauma can still wear a mask of spiritual magnetism. What followed was a painful entanglement that nearly destroyed me. Yet, I emerged. That relationship, as difficult as it was, became the crucible that forged deeper clarity. I had to look at every line on that list of mine and ask, was this a soul truth or a subconscious program? Because if your list is built on fear, control, fantasy, or societal conditioning, you'll attract someone who reflects those exact frequencies back to you. The real question isn't, can you manifest your divine partner? It's, can you tell the difference between what your soul needs and what your wounded parts crave? You refine the list as you grow, not out of cynicism, but wisdom. Over time, you'll find the traits you once saw as essential begin to fall away, until all that's left are the non-negotiables rooted in deep self-knowing. This process is not a formula, it's a living, evolving dialogue between your inner being and the greater field of life. When you finally understand that your true partner is not here to complete you, but to walk beside you as an equal, when you stop trying to manifest perfection and start manifesting resonance, everything changes. You don't call them in with desperation. You call them in with alignment. They come. I say to Jane, when you think about manifestation, it isn't a bad idea to make a list and write out exactly what you need and to be very specific. When manifesting who and what you desire, you have to hone in on the exact qualities you need. I zeroed in on this through the years, especially after that destructive relationship. His controlling behavior nearly brought me down, but instead I emerged stronger. When I met him, I thought he embodied all I desired in a mate. Apparently, I forgot a few things on the list. As you grow, you need to refine your requirements further and further, until isolating those things that are not just essential to your happiness, but essential to a fulfilling partnership with another being. Jane says, in the beginning, it was a long list. I say, you told me one day, Jane, you've got to change some of that. I kept looking it over and said, I can't. He has to be taller than me, for instance. I simply cannot make love to a man or lie in his arms who is physically shorter than me. Everything else was mandatory. He has to be funny. He has to be intelligent, or I will not feel challenged. His heart needs to be huge and his emotional baggage mostly healed. I don't want it to be a tutoring session where he's my student either. Instead, he tutors me as much as I tutor him. In other words, questing and growing together. To me, that is essential. He needs a passion for life and for our relationship. He needs to enjoy giving as much as receiving. You'd be surprised how many men perform sex perfunctorily or as a conquest and not as an intimate connection, and most simply do not reciprocate. This was vital as well. He needed to be more athletic than me so he could help get me out of my hermit-like writing mode every once in a while. It went on and on and on. Oh, right. And one last thing. He needed to be out of the matrix. Jane says, that one's almost impossible. I say, I know, it is. At last, I said, okay, I'm not going to presume what he looks like. Any preconception on my type, I let go. At one point, I thought I wanted a guitarist with dark hair. Then I decided that's just not important. I said, instead, universe, send him. Then he came. Jane says, there's a big thing in there when you said it's not important what he looks like. I say, black, white, gray, brown, short hair, long hair, no hair. I said, universe, surprise me. You know what? It did. Jane says, can I tell you that 99.9999% of women could not say that? When I said you need to examine that list and reduce it, you reduced it by 99.999% on just that one thing. You went for what is important versus what you perceive to be important. This ties in with many of the topics we've spoken of, which is that you have a unique way of looking at things that differs vastly from others, even those in this field. I say, this is a program where specific looks have been fed to us as to what is attractive. It's why so many have body dysmorphia. It's impossible to measure up. Jane says, advertising's been telling us 20 million times per second, every single day, what should matter. The programming goes into who we should and shouldn't be attracted to. And yet, you have let go of dozens and dozens of programs in that one statement. Therefore, you opened up a massive door of who could walk into your life because the thing that the elite, the controlling programmers want to have happen is for us to run programs that make it hard for us to connect with our soulmate or partner or whatever term you want to give it. In essence, they have stopped the masculine and feminine divine from uniting and doing their dance together. Thank you for listening to this excerpt. In the next chapter, we explore what happens when reality stops behaving when your mind no longer plays by old rules.